Thanks for watching Spooky South Coast, and be sure to click the subscribe button and enable notifications with the bell icon to stay up to date with future videos.
The question shouldn't be, do you see this? It should be, what do you see? I've been guilty of being in a situation where some of us are experiencing something, and I turn around and I say to the rest of the group, you know, do you see this? And the question shouldn't be, do you see this? It should be, what do you see?
Exactly.
And have them kind of give it to you from their own lens. I think there was the very first EVP I ever caught was at the Wolf Island Cemetery.
Yep.
And, you know, we weren't exactly sure what it was that we heard. We put it out to the audience of what they thought it was, and we got back so many different types of responses, and as soon as they said it, we could hear each response in each one. You know, it was very much Yanni and Laurel of the EVP world.
We actually address that in the book.
Oh, do you? Oh,
Yeah.
And use that as an example.
I mean,
the timing of that was pretty good.
It's certainly something that that people are familiar with now, after taking the internet by storm.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris and I were already working on this project when the whole Yanni Laurel thing came about, and it was a no-brainer. We're like, we have to include this.
And so I'm just going to ask each one of you individually. Clarissa, is it Yanni or Laurel?
It's Yanni.
And Chris?
Laurel, totally.
I'm so glad that you don't agree on what it is. Which proves the point. It's coming through your own filter, coming through your own lens, and it's not going to be the same from one person to the next.
Well, and we even went so far as to try to, in a manner of speaking, debunk it. You know, we were both listening to that sound file on different devices. You know, using headphones, without headphones. You know, on the television, on the tablet, on the computer, on the cell phone. You know, we're trying to figure out, you know, what was going on, you know, that was causing, you know, that could affect the outcome of that.
Sure, using different speakers and such, you know, that are tuned differently, it would bring about different results.
There really
Plus,
is.
it's the natural, inclination too for your own ears and the way your ears were tuned, and we go into that in that chapter.
There really is the need to, when you are, even just when somebody's playing something for you, you know, there is kind of that need to completely take everything out of your mind. You know, you have to kind of get rid of every thought that you may be having at that moment, because even just something else that's on your mind at that time can distract you and can take away the purity of the experience of listening what it is that you're listening to, or looking at the photograph or the piece of video that you're looking at. You really need to kind of just wipe the slate clean before you can analyze anything.
Absolutely.
But that's easier said than done too. Do you, Chris, would you have any recommendations for somebody that wants to look at a piece of data to say, you know, here's a way to kind of focus in on it and to kind of clear all that stuff out of your mind? Or is it just something that you end up figuring out how to do after time?
Well, a little of both. I would say, you know, take a break. I know when I first started doing this stuff, I would just spend hours and hours listening to the same stuff, you know, the same recording over and over, trying to figure out, what is that word? Is it a word? That kind of thing. And, you know, after 3 hours of listening to the same audio, you start to hear all kinds of things in it, you know, and I was definitely guilty of this, you know, psychosomatic issue where you start to hear things, you know, and your brain naturally plays tricks on you. So I think it's good to take a break, step away from it for a while, you know, come back fresh. Use headsets that are, you know, maybe flatly tuned, like studio monitor headsets, rather than, you know, maybe cheaping out on a headset and just using, you know, earbuds from Dollar Tree or something like that. You know, spend a little money on that. It is very helpful.
I do find too that the higher end equipment is, you know, to me, being a bit of an audiophile, that's what I want. I want the best quality microphone recording it. I want the best quality headphones listening back to it. And the debate has always been there for as long as I've been involved in this stuff, that sometimes it's better to have the lower quality stuff because that causes more external noise that can allow things to come through more easily. Clarissa, in your opinion, would you rather have the most pristine audio possible, or do you think that there needs to be a little bit of background noise to help things come about, to help things kind of manifest?
My personal preference, I've got one of the top of the line audio recorders that I use for my research, but every now and then I go old school, depending on, the location and, the history and, if evidence has been collected there prior. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to go old school. I still have a couple of the old analog micro recorders, but in fact, we addressed the whole white noise during EVP sessions in the book too. Tim, you're just outlining our chapters here.
Well, Chris, I'm sure that you're well aware of the fact that because it's on TV so much, every paranormal investigator wants to go out and get the Panasonic DDR60, which is, at this point, like a 15-year-old recorder, maybe even older than that. And they have a lot of noise, but people want these because they say the best stuff comes through these. And I can tell you that when we were, picking up equipment to use on haunted towns, that was something that was on their wish list of things to get. And I said, why would you want this old piece of equipment that doesn't really give you any better sound quality? It just gives you more external noise, when you could spend that same amount of money on some condenser microphones and a mixing board and actually be able to have much better control over the sound that's coming in. And then you really know that when something comes through, that it is something that was anomalous, that's something that wasn't just a mistake coming through. But yet everybody wants to get one of these hunk of junk recorders that now go for $1,000 a piece.
Yeah, at least $1,000, right? Yeah, I've seen them for more than that even. It's kind of crazy. I've also heard really good examples of EVPs with them, for sure, and I think there's a lot of anticipation built up. I don't know. Maybe, the fact that they want it so bad helps. I don't know. Well, I can't, say that it makes things better, though. I don't believe it does.
And that's what I wonder. I wonder if, if you do hear a really good quality EVP come over one of those Panasonics, is it not really the case that you would have gotten that over something else? And maybe if you were using better quality equipment when that came through, it would actually be even more easy to understand and stand out even more through better quality equipment. I don't know. I'm just somebody that would always prefer to have the best available when it comes to that kind of stuff. And it would be.
I prefer the clearer stuff, but I do understand why people like them.
And I think more than anything, it's become kind of a status symbol to have among people as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, Clarissa, you mentioned the SLS system, which that became the hot thing a few years ago, to the point where people start making them in their garages on their workbenches by taking their Xbox Kinect camera and trying to adapt it. And Bill Chappell, who put out the first system, is telling everybody, no, that's not how this works. But nobody's listening, and they're going out there with these devices and putting up what they got on it, which is going to naturally be built into creating false positives. They're putting that out there as evidence, so now everybody wants one of these SLS systems.
Right. And we've got two versions of it. We have the XCam, and we also have the Kinect. And like I mentioned earlier in the show, I'm still working on debunking that piece of equipment, because I think a lot of the anomalies that these cameras are detecting has a lot to do with camera angle, because you move the camera just a bit and the anomaly disappears. However, last night we did have down in the basement, Chris and another investigator and we did have an anomaly actually move across the ceiling, and I was able to follow it with the camera. So whether that was legitimate evidence of paranormal activity, I don't know yet, because I haven't figured out to my satisfaction how this works and how I can, differentiate between what is a genuine anomaly detection and what is camera malfunction or operator error.
See, what the way that I look at it is if it. And for those who are unfamiliar, the SLS system is the one that creates the stick figure on the screen. You've seen some of these videos. We have some up on SpookySouthCoast.com and on our YouTube channel. And I'll get to that in a minute. But it's a good story. And when you just see a stick figure show up on the screen, that's not enough for me.
Right.
I see it as that, that could be anything. That could be, they just pop up from time to time. Sometimes you'll get half a stick figure. Sometimes you'll get an arm that appears out of nowhere. And it doesn't mean that there's a floating arm in the middle of the room. So I don't really put that much stock in that kind of stuff. It's when the figures show up and they're completely and totally interactive with the environment.